Good evening. I would like to call to order the Monday, September 19th meeting of the Wilson School Board. Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mrs. Casper?
Here.
Dr. Kennedy?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Mr. McCray?
Here.
Mr. Negrini? Here. Mr. Schneider?
Here.
Mrs. Cocker?
Here.
9 present, 0 absent.
Please stand for the posting of the colors.
Ma'am, permission to post colors. Post colors. Post colors. Grades and arms.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Order. Arms. Reverse colors. March. Right. Face. Mark on.
This evening, we have a communication presentation by the Whitfield Wonders program. If you would like to come up.
Yep, we're good. Good evening. Thank you for inviting us to come here this evening to share some information about an initiative that we're pretty excited about, something we're calling Whitfield Wonders. My name is Dan Buckley, and this is my 17th year as a teacher at Whitfield. I'm a proud parent of 2 Whitfield alums from the class of 2008 and the class of 2011. Yes, I'm that old. The spark for the Whitfield Wonders theme came about from a book group I conducted with a group of 4th graders last fall. We read the book Wonder by P.J. Palacio. It's a book whose main message is one of kindness and acceptance of others. The kids blew me away by the manner in which they took ownership of the group, the discussions we shared, the way in which they were ready and able to go deep into the lessons that the book provides. It was one of those incredible teaching experiences that reminded me how fortunate I am to work with and learn from the students at Whitfield. When our book group dissolved, I was determined not to let the bond we had formed around the ideas from the book dissipate, especially in light of the challenges we've all faced in the past 2.5 years. I felt that perhaps having a school theme focusing on kindness would be rather timely. I also knew that it was something I could never pull off alone. So, I set out to find members for the kindness crew you see with me this evening. The young ladies of this crew were not chosen at random. Rather, I know them to be harbingers of hope, persons of positivity, characters of kindness. Love me a good alliteration. They are indeed wonder-filled and wonderful women, and it has been a pleasure and an honor to have worked with them on this project since last November. I'd now like to pass the baton to Jamie McGee, who will guide you through the mission, vision, and values of the Whitfield Wonders program. Thank you.
Yep. Here we go. Thank you.
So we set out deciding to be wise and intentional with our time, energy, and resources. And to that end, we set out mission, vision, and values to be our guiding principles. You can see the theme of wonderful in each of these three pieces. The mission is why. Why are we doing this? It's kind of their purpose. And the vision is what we hope to see in our community at Whitfield and beyond. And the values are the pieces that we feel are important.
So when we got to the point when we would decide what this actual program was going to look like, we sat down and we looked at all the amazing things that we already do at Whitfield that we could maybe change focus and narrow in to meet kind of our goal of kindness. So this turned into monthly precepts. So precepts are a big part of the book Wonder. And each month there will be a precept that is chosen to introduce a theme for each month. And the themes are rooted in SEL and character ed. And every theme has been carefully chosen to match with a pre-existing Whitfield program or to line up with like a holiday season. So that these are all things that, again, are aligned with what we already do. The way we kind of worded it is that we want this project to be incorporated into the things we already do every day, and our goal is not to add on to our teachers, but to take the existing greatness in our building and just focus it in a more specific direction. And another important note is that we really feel like this program aligns perfectly with our district goals for the year, specifically the elementary focus on learning environment, and we really hope that this program can promote positivity and consistency throughout our school.
So these are the monthly themes that we've come up with. Ms. Joyner, our principal, did a really great job at our first assembly explaining to the kids what it means to be a wonder. So through the month of September, we've been talking to the kids about yourselves, learning about yourselves, learning about your classmates, and learning about the community. And then as you can see, October is kindness, November gratitude, December generosity, January that courage, February compassion, March optimism, April perseverance, and then to end May with service. We are approaching this as a three-part approach, and we're going to explain these a little bit further over the next few slides.
So the first thing that we wanted to do is classroom incorporation, so direct instruction from our teachers. So it was really important to us, really, that we're not creating more work for our teachers. So we provided a whole Google Drive folder of different activities that they can incorporate into their classroom, and we laid out specific times already in our schedule that could just be narrowed in. So we have an intervention time called win time, and on Fridays, it's not as kind of scheduled, so we use that win time on Fridays that teachers can choose different activities based on their grade level and what their classroom needs. This also would work with our new learning buddies, where different grade levels match up with a different class, and together they can work on activities that promote the theme for the month.
So whole school activities, this is really, again, focusing on that common language. Each month, we'll have an assembly that we'll kick off to let everybody know what our focus is. Our first assembly is next Friday. We're going to encourage the students to, show these different things that we are teaching them all throughout the month. We'll use learning buddies as an example of ways for that common language to come across. Usually at the end of the assemblies, we have a principal's award, and this year we're trying to shift it more to where it's not just one or two students from the classroom that gets an award, but maybe 5 or 6 of your kids really did a great job of showing our monthly theme, or all of your kids did, and then we just celebrate all of them. So really the goal is just to try and celebrate as many kids as we can throughout each of the months.
Our first community event was a movie night, a free presentation of the movie Wonder. We had over 200 participants come to Whitfield for a showing of the movie. We partnered with the WHSA to provide concessions, which was well supported by a very generous donation of authentic movie theater popcorn from a local movie theater. And we were just really excited to see so many people come out and be introduced to the themes of kindness through the movie itself. And then the third piece of our three-part approach is community service. You may have noticed that in the month of May, the theme is in fact service, and we really wanted to provide an opportunity for students and classes and grade levels as a whole to put into practice what we learn and talk about all year long. So our job will be to facilitate the brainstorming sessions, hopefully connecting our classes or grade levels with people in the community, and we just really are super excited. I'm personally most excited for this piece just because I really want to see what's important to our students, what's most meaningful to them, and where do they feel kindness could be most impactful. So that is a really exciting way in my mind to put the kindness into action and again, just connect to our community as a whole. So that's all I do.
Yeah, if there's any questions, I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I just wanted to, oh, do you have a question? No? Oh, I was just going to say thank you so much for putting all of your time and energy into this. Like you said, you didn't want to add on to the plates of the teachers, which I'm sure is very appreciated, but it's still something that you can focus on and kind of point out you already do this. Like everybody should be kind to each other, and we already do the A, B, and C, and that kind of just ties in with it. It's a really nice program. Thank you.
I was just wondering, do you guys plan on doing this as like a recurring thing every year?
I don't know that we'll necessarily implement this same program year after year, but my hope, my biggest hope for this is that it will plant a seed that will create a culture that will carry over year after year, no matter what our school theme is. So,
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So this evening, we do have public participation on agenda items. So, Mr. Moravit?
Sure. Rules of public participation at school board meetings pursuant to the Sunshine Law, Robert's Rules, and Board Policy. The following are the rules of public participation. Individuals attending this meeting are expected to conduct themselves in a respectful and responsible manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Public comment is not question and answer, but is instead an opportunity to offer comment on matters that are or may come before the board. In particular, personnel or student matters may not be commented on based on confidentiality rules. As it relates to questions, the superintendent may assign an administrator or may speak directly to the speaker after the meeting to attempt to answer any questions raised by the speaker. The board respectfully requests that you direct your comments to the board as a body, as it is the entire body that will need to vote on matters. Clapping, calling out, or cheering is not permitted, nor are conversations in the audience. Individuals may not approach the board tables. Individuals shall make their comments from the speaker's lectern. Comments are 3 minutes, and I'll provide the 1-minute warning. Any person making threats of violence may be removed from the board meeting or may be cited by local police. The board policy is 903, and it's embedded within board docs on the website.
Thank you, Mr. Moravich. First, we have Tammy Hahn, the WEA Wilson Board Tentative Agreement.
Getting old is great. Good evening, members of the Wilson School Board. As president of the Wilson Education Association, I'm here to ask you to vote yes in the tentative agreement that's reached between WEA and the negotiating committee of the board. I feel like we work together as if we were on the same team working towards a common goal, and as a result, we've reached an agreement that meets the needs of both parties. If this district wants to provide the best opportunities and experiences for our children, then it's important to invest in the greatest asset you have in this district, your staff. As a district and a community, we've endured quite a bit over the last few years, with teachers taking a good brunt of the challenges in education. Don't get me wrong, I recognize you've endured your fair share of challenges too. I respect all of you and the time and energy you invest into making our district an amazing place for children, and that needs to be recognized. So I thank you for your leadership. In turn, I'm asking you to recognize the time and energy and sacrifices your teachers make daily to ensure the needs of all children are met. Respectfully, I ask you to vote yes on the tentative agreement. With an early bird in place, we can all return to the focus, the real reason we are all here tonight, working together to ensure we create the best possible experience for our children. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Randolph Blatt, teacher's contract.
Good evening. I'm going to talk about the contract. Did the public know anything about the early bird? I doubt it. In the past, we kept the public informed, just saying we're negotiating an early bird. And I do have to congratulate both you and the union on the early bird. I'm not here to say vote for it, not vote for it. The public did not again know about it. Wasn't presented to them, so I ask you to postpone the vote, put the contract on your website for 2 weeks to the next board meeting, and vote for it then. Simple request. That way you communicate to the public about it. Now, regarding the legal point and the ethical point of the board members, I want to point out that 2 of the board members will receive direct compensation in their family if they vote for this. 6 out of the rest of the board has a relationship with teachers, either a spouse, parents, another district, or another college. Now, this early bird sets the tone for the other districts regarding contract negotiation. So I asked especially those 2 people whether it is ethical for you to vote for the contract. Legally, yes. Ethics, I challenge you to answer that question. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mr. Maravich, I have a question based off of the remarks. Is there a legal requirement for the board to share that we are moving into early bird negotiations? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we weren't doing anything out of legal realm. And in regards to how individual board members might vote, I'm sure that they've considered that already, having known their relationship with employees in our district. But thank you for your comments. That's the end of public participation on agenda items. The board did meet in executive session prior to tonight's meeting to discuss personnel matters. 2.1, approval of minutes. Request to approve the minutes of the school board meeting held on September 6, 2022 as attached. Looking for a motion for 2.1.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Treasurer's report. Mr. Martin?
Mr. President, I submit for approval tonight the following reports: the Treasury Report, the Investment Report, the General and Capital Fund reports, and the various other financial reports as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
4.1, payment of bills. Mr. Negrini?
Motion to approve
Capital Reserve, $163,785.17 from the 2019A. Construction Fund, $392,255.23. And from the 2021 C Construction Fund, $105,483.11.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Abstain.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
8 yes, 1 abstain.
Financial reports, Mr. Negrini.
Motion to approve the following financial reports, all from August 2022. The cafeteria and childcare and the activity accounts for Southern, West, and Senior High as attached.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Superintendent's report, Dr. Trickett.
Thank you, President Cocker. Under item 6, personnel program recommendations tonight, I want to highlight the change in status, section 6.2. You'll notice on here that all of our secretaries in the elementary schools and our 2 middle schools are being recommended to have a job title changed from secretary to the elementary principal to an administrative assistant to the elementary principal, effective immediately. These 7 changes in status are a result of the work that we're doing with our support staff group, analyzing some of our past practices and making sure that people are in the appropriate, not only job titles, but also within the right ranges. So this is our first step to make sure we acknowledge them and the work that they do. For years, other folks within our team have been titled administrative assistant, and when we analyze the work that they do and the value that they add to our school system, we thought this was the least we could do as a first step effort to make sure we show them our value. Also wanted to point out and congratulate Dr. Ed Lucky. He's on here moving from into a doctorate category. He's a teacher on special assignment over at Shiloh Hills Elementary School, and just want to congratulate him for persevering through the rigorous doctoral studies and work that goes along with that. And then lastly, I'd like to welcome back Megan. Mrs. Oxenrider, I believe, is back there. She's going to be joining our team, previously worked in the high school and also at Shiloh Hills, but is going to be joining us as an EL teacher. So we're very glad to have you back here, again, serving the kids in our school district. So welcome back. That's all.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. Looking for a motion to approve Superintendent's report, 6.1 through 6.6 as presented.
Schneider, so moved.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Do we have a second? Casper. Mrs. Casper, thank you. Any discussion? Mr. Negrini?
I just want to wish Mike Thompson the best in the change in employment. I spoke with him last week. He said this was one of the hardest decisions he's ever made in his professional career. Actually, he used the term life. He's a young father, a young parent. This was really about what was best for his family, his child. He travels a long distance to work here in the Wilson School District. He was able to take a job that's basically close to home, that he would get some additional help with family, with the raising of his child. So I wish him the best. I think it's important to indicate for the public as best as we can when teachers decide to resign, get some feedback as to those resignations and the reasons behind that. And this is one of those sad situations. I know he had a great impact on my daughter Isabel and a lot of Green Valley students and parents, so I wish him the best.
I have to say I'm only voting yes because of his wife. That's the only reason.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
7, ratification approval of the following field trips. 7.1, requests permission to approve a trip to Costa Rica for about 20 Spanish, 3, 4, and 5 students from March 17th through March 26th, 2023, 6 days out of school. Cost to students is about $2,806, plus some fees not covered for some excursions and optional activities. Cost of the district is 1 substitute teacher for 6 days. Students will be chaperoned by Ms. Lilibel Sanchez and Mr. Ramon Marquez. 7.2, request approval of an overnight trip to Camp Swatara for 6th grade students at West Middle School from Monday, October 3rd through Friday, October 7th, 2022. 7.3, request approval of an overnight trip to Camp Swatara for 6th grade students at Wilson Southern Middle School from Monday, September 26th through Friday, September 30th, 2022. Looking for a motion to approve all field trip agenda items 7.1 through 7.3.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion?
I just want to say I'm absolutely thrilled we're going back to Camp Swatara. I'm happy for the kids. It's such a life-changing experience for the 6th graders. For some of them, it's the first time they've ever been away from home overnight. And I had one of the kids that didn't get to go overnight, and my heart hurt for him. So I'm thrilled for these to get it back up and running. It's something that I think it's important that we don't lose as a district.
Thank you, Dr. Kennedy. Mr. Martin?
Well, I was going to echo basically what Amy just said, but my kids went through, both the kids went through the program, and they were used to camping out and all this stuff before then, but they were so excited about helping the other kids that weren't familiar with that they had it was a great learning experience for them, and it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah, absolutely. Mr.
It really
Schneider?
is. We went back then, we went to Camp Conrad Weiser, but I still have memories of it, so it really is very exciting to be able to provide that for the kids again.
Well, and I think, I'm pretty sure they still do this, they have high school students chaperone students of their own, like the elementary school that they went to. So as a high school senior, I had the opportunity to go to Camp Conrad Weiser, but then also act as a student chaperone for the kids, and it's a totally different experience. So I hope the high school students also have a great time, because it's definitely a learning curve. So, all right, any other discussion?
President Cocker.
Yes.
Just want to thank our team. It becomes challenging at times, especially post-pandemic, where we were doing things differently for a couple of years, to be able to pull things like this off. And just want to thank many of the people who are in this room, our nursing team, our teachers, our grade level folks, specifically in 6th grade, our principals, our parents. There was a time where we weren't sure this was going to be coming to you. And it's because of the hard work and commitment of a lot of teachers and nurses and support staff members that it is here. So being away from your family for multiple nights is not something we all look forward to. But again, like so many board members said, and I'm sure community members agree, the experience is worth that effort. So just thank you to everyone that had a part in making sure this came back before the board today.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. We have it's a consent item, so all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. 8.1, request to accept with gratitude the donations as presented. Donation in the amount of $2,500 from Pennsylvania Anesthesia Coalition for the purchase of T-shirts for the Most Valuable Bulldog Program, an initiative that allows senior athletes to recognize a Wilson staff member who made a significant impact on their life. Looking for a motion for 8.1.
So moved.
Mr. Martin, thank you. Do we have a second?
Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion?
President Cocker.
Yes.
Again, I'm sorry, 2 in a
Nope.
row. I just want to thank the Anesthesia Coalition. What an amazing program. This is obviously a build-up or build-off of what happened last year with our football players. And anytime I think we can take high school students, especially seniors, and get them in front of their teachers that they had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, it's transformational. To see the pictures that were shared last year by Mrs. Troutman and our team, tears, seeing the teachers come to the games to support the kids after they got the jersey. This allows us to impact more teachers. And just am thankful that our kids and our folks got this together and then ultimately got it funded as well through that generous donation. So thank you.
Thank you. And just in case people aren't aware of the program, last year the senior football players awarded was it their jersey or a T-shirt with their name on it?
Jersey.
For their actual jersey to a memorable teacher that made an impact on their life, and now it's going to be expanded to all seniors in all activities, so it's great.
They had to
Thank
give
you.
the jerseys back. They
Oh,
just
right.
load them out.
It's sentimental, yeah.
Right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. So, question, Mr. Maravich. At one point, it says voice vote, and the other... Okay, just checking. All right, we're good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Under Human Resources, 9.1, request approval of the revised support staff compensation ranges as attached. This is going to be a standalone item, pulled apart from 9.3, so looking for a motion just for 9.1. Mr. Hart, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
9.3, request approval of the WEA contract effective July 1st, 2023, as attached. Looking for a motion for 9.3.
Casper?
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to say a couple of words with regard to the community member that pointed out a couple of things. I did mention to my colleagues up here that I am going to abstain, although I do not have to. Just to give the community a little bit background, I am very proud, a very proud husband to be married to a teacher. I am unashamed about it, and she gives me a great perspective and balance between the business world and the teacher world. So it's been a great thing. Just for behind the scenes, I actually either get kicked out of the room or I'm usually proactive about leaving the room anytime we have any kind of a conversation with regard to contracts. I should not be, and I am not in those rooms when that happens. Although legally, when it's a collective contract and presented like this, there is no conflict of interest. But just for the community and the perspective, I'm abstaining. So just wanted to share those comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Any other discussion? Mr. Martin?
Yes, I addressed this in the pre-board meeting, I guess, a week or so ago. We've done several early birds now, and the contract itself is old and outdated, and I know people don't like to go through long, prolonged, contract negotiations, but the contract really needs to be updated, and that's all I got.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Any other discussion? Okay, and to Mr. Martin, to your point, I think that's not, that's a good suggestion, because it has been a number of years before, since the actual contract has been kind of picked apart, and if maybe we started with a group from both sides now to say, take it a section at a time. I think back to Mr. Hart and I, probably 4 years ago now, we were on an ad hoc committee that took a look at every single policy on the board that the board's responsible for, and we maybe took 3 or 4 policies a meeting and met every week, and it was painstaking, but it was effective, and we really know the policies now because of it. So it wasn't a blast, but it was something we needed to do. So that's a great suggestion. I think that if we started now, it wouldn't seem like such an overwhelming task to have it, be in a good place 5 years from now. So thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, we have a motion. Oh, yes, Mr. Hart.
I'll be brief. I just want to thank both teams coming together for a collective bargaining agreement for an early bird. I appreciate the effort put in by both sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Abstain.
Mr. Hart?
Abstain.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker.
Yes.
7 yes, 2 abstain.
Under Student Services, 10.1, request approval of a service agreement with Elite Educational and Therapeutic Support Services, LLC, to perform an independent educational evaluation at a fee not to exceed $4,500 in accordance with Board Policy 113.3. 10.2, request approval and addendum to a previously approved settlement agreement and waiver for a placement in lieu of FAPE at the Woodland School with transportation for a special education student. Looking for a motion to approve student service items 10.1 and 10.2 as presented.
Casper?
Mrs. Casper, thank you. Do we have a second? Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Case?
Yes?
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Operations, 11.1, request permission to contract with the Berkshire Systems Group, Inc. for life safety tests and inspections of the district for the time period July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2025, pending solicitor review. Looking for a motion for 11.1.
So moved. Case?
Mr. Case, thank you. Do we have a second?
Negrini, second.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Finance, 12.1, request approval to transfer the remaining balance from the class of 2021 of $1,614.13 to student government per policy 618 student activity funds. All monies remaining in, and inactive, we don't need to read through the whole policy, and inactivate the class of 2021 student activities account. 12.2, request approval of the audit engagement letter for the years ended June 30th, 2022 and June 30th, 2023 with Herbine and Company, Inc. for base amount of $25,500 and $26,250 respectively. An additional not to exceed fee of $3,750 for additional federal grant testing as required for the Education Stabilization Fund. An additional not to exceed fee of $4,500 for the implementation and reporting of GASB 87 lease accounting. 12.3, request approval to award the 2022-23 winter-spring athletics bids as noted on the attached list. 12.4, request permission to submit 5 delinquent accounts to the Berks County Tax Claim Bureau. 12.5, request approval of the budget transfers dated June 30th, 2022 as attached. Looking for a motion to approve all finance agenda items 12.1 through 12.5 as presented.
So moved, Negrini.
Mr. Negrini, thank you. Do we have a second?
McCray.
Mr. McCray, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under Curriculum and Staff Development, 13.1, request approval of a contract with On Hand Schools for a data blending program and services through June 30th, 2023, pending solicitor review and approval. 13.2, request approval to enter into a contract with Phantom Entertainment Service to provide services for the Southern Middle School's end-of-year celebration at a cost of $7,825 to be funded by the PTO, Student Council, and donations. Looking for a motion to approve all curriculum and staff development agenda items 13.1 and 13.2 as presented. Dr. Kennedy, thank you. Looking for a second.
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion?
President Cocker?
Yes.
I just had a question about 13.1. Does the renewal come with a cost, an additional cost, or is it the same cost for the renewal? It wasn't clear on the...
Yes, it does. The cost, I believe, is just a little bit over, what's $30,000 for the 1 year. So initially, this is a tool that we use essentially to blend all of our data together. So student information data, assessment data, behavioral data, and so forth. We were initially looking to do a 3-year agreement, but because of where we are in the organization, making sure that our goals are aligned with this expenditure, Dr. Cachufo went back to the company, and we're committing, asking for the board to commit for 1 year at the $30,240 as opposed to a 3-year commitment. That will give us the next 12 months to determine if it's beneficial for us moving forward.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under childcare, for 14.1, request approval of pre-K counts calendar for the 22-23 school year. Looking for a motion for 14.1. Dr. Kennedy, do we have a second?
Schneider, second.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Schneider?
Yes.
Mr. Case?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mrs. Casper?
Yes.
Dr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. McCray?
Yes.
Mr. Negrini?
Yes.
Mrs. Cocker?
Yes.
9 yes, 0 no.
Under miscellaneous, we have our enrollment report as of September 16th, which I'm sure has ballooned since registrations, more additional registrations came in. We've had 6,385 students, and that leads to our committee reports. So BCTC, Mrs. Casper.
I have no report for BCTC, but I can move to student services.
Okay.
So student services met on Wednesday, September 7th. Just a few highlights from the meeting. As noted by Dr. Trickett earlier, under nursing and health services, our staffing, we are incredibly competitive for our registered nurses, and so we've been able to offer competitive salaries here at Wilson. We're increasing our sub-pool and added a part-time nurse for our Camp Swatara, our 6th grade camp. And we're working on a schedule to develop a more equitable distribution of support for all of our school nurses. Under mental health and counseling, we spent a lot of time updating and revising Policy 819, suicide awareness, prevention, and response, based on some state recommendations, and we hope to bring the policy before the board for its first reading soon. Also, our first mental health night in collaboration with the Cook Center for Human Connection is this Wednesday, September the 21st at 7 o'clock. And the theme for the night is Building Your Child's Confidence. The Cook Center was also here for our professional development this past Friday on September the 16th. Under equity and student experience, we expect to conduct a school climate culture survey as step 1 of the equity audit. The survey also meets our Tier 1 requirements for our safety and security grant that the district was awarded this past year. These culture surveys will help to get some overview data regarding the status of our district. So after analyzing the data, we hope to develop some focus groups to dig deeper into areas that are most important to all of our stakeholders. The goal is to begin review of this data in early October. That's my report. Our next meeting is October 5th at 4.
Thank you, Mrs. Casper. BCIU, Dr. Kennedy.
I was unable to attend the last BCIU board meeting because it coincided with West's Meet the Teacher Night, and we haven't had a curriculum meeting since our last board meeting. The next one is on September 28th.
Thank you. Mrs. Schlossman, Burke CIT. Thank you. Extracurricular. The extracurricular committee met last Monday, September 12th at noon. And among other topics, an issue that we have been has come up multiple times, is the band uniforms. So the extracurricular committee discussed the status of the Wilson High School band uniforms. The band's current uniforms are over 20 years old and well past the end of their life. Mr. Cooper, who retired at the end of 2021-22 school year, wanted the new band director to lead the process of selecting the new uniforms, which I'm sure he appreciates. Therefore, the process has just begun under the direction of Mr. Bonilla Garcia. The timeline for receiving new uniforms can span from 12 to 16 months, with time built in for design, prototypes, and production. Therefore, this year, the band has ordered attire that matches the Nordic theme of their show. You may see them in their show T-shirts at the football games, but rest assured, they are working together to secure new uniforms that will reflect the excellence of our high school band program. So, also, kind of gives you a preview of what their performance is going to be with the Nordic theme. So that was our extracurricular committee. Also, for additional information, our minutes are on the website, and that's our report. We will not meet again until next month. Facilities committee, Mr. Case.
Okay, thank you. For the facilities, the Wilson operations team is finishing up their district-wide mulching projects, along with other projects such as the Whitfield press box and the natatorium chlorine room upgrades. There's been a whole bunch of dead tree branches that were causing safety concerns that were recently removed. And we have invited a local Cub Scout troop to help with trash collection during the home football games. And they have graciously accepted it. Did they start yet, or Friday? Great. Hopefully they don't have a whole lot of work to do. Pickleball lines are being placed at 2 of the west tennis courts, which will still be able to be used as tennis courts. So that's great. We talked about that about a month ago. And the operations team has met several times in-house with a vendor, and they'll have a scaled-down version of the Whitfield netting project to present at the next facilities meeting, which is going to be on October 10th. That's my report. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Finance committee, Mr. Negrini.
Thank you. Herbine and Company is continuing with the audit process. I know that they were present today. They continue to work through that audit process. We should have some more information in the near future. And our next Finance Committee meeting is Monday, October 3rd at 4:30. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Negrini. Legislative, Mr. Martin.
Not much is happening. They're in session this week for 3 days, then they take a break. They'll be back in October for a few days, but nothing's really going to get moved through until after the elections, of course. So really, we'll have to wait and see. But right now, it's just people doing their thing out there. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Human Resources, Mr. Hart.
No report.
Thank you. Public Relations, Mrs. Troutman.
Thank you. I just have a couple items. I first wanted to announce that Governor Wolf recently announced his plan to provide universal free breakfast for all students across the Commonwealth, beginning October 1st and running through the end of this school year. The Universal Free Breakfast program will be available to all Wilson students, regardless of whether or not they qualify for free or reduced meals. We want the community to note that nothing will change regarding how we serve breakfast to our students. Students can continue to go through the serving line as they do now, and any meals that they take will be recorded on their account at no charge. We are certainly grateful for this opportunity to ensure that every student starts their day with a healthy, nutritious meal. We will be sending out a communication to all families in the district. It's scheduled to go out this Wednesday. Information is also posted on our district website, and anyone who has questions can certainly reach out to our food services department. Mrs. Casper already talked about the mental health nights. So just as a reminder, the first one in the series is happening this Wednesday evening, and we did post registration information on the homepage of our district website, so we encourage our community to register for that first event. And then finally, just one item under Wilson Good News. We want to congratulate our Wilson students who won first place awards for poetry writing at the General Federation of Women's Clubs International Competition held in Atlanta, Georgia in June. Both of these students were sponsored by the Women's Club of Sinking Spring, of Spring Township. So we went to congratulate Natalie Capani, who is a current freshman at Wilson High School, and Yazabella Carabello, who is a current senior at Wilson. We want to let you know that the Women's Club of Spring, oh my goodness, the Women's Club of Spring Township will again be sponsoring contests in short story, poetry, art, and photography for the 2022-23 school year. Every year, we have great participation, and our students perform extremely well in this contest. So please watch District Communications for an announcement about when those contests will begin for this year. Thanks.
Thank you. Education Foundation, Mr. Case.
Yes, thank you. Some of the, let me just, I'll talk a little bit. The Education Foundation met on Friday morning, and most of the meeting was spent with, focused on Dr. Trickett discussing Wilson's strategic planning goals, which was great. It's always good to have the Education Foundation tied into the goals and the plan, because they look for opportunities to participate and get involved. And then, and lastly, the Bulldog Bash went on Saturday night, and it was a very good turnout, and it was a huge success. It was a great night to come out and celebrate two outstanding Teachers of the Year, Ken Kirshner and Vicki Taylor. It was also great to meet their friends, co-workers, and families, and listen to their journeys, and also to celebrate Bob Chappell's acceptance of the 2022 Legacy Award. All the many alumni and teachers, friends, and family that joined, it was a pleasure meeting Bob and learn of all the lives that he has touched at Wilson and beyond. He's really, truly a great man and inspiration, and I walked away with trying to be a little bit more warm and fuzzy. He's a good guy. The silent auction is still open for bidding. The house in Florida is now closed. I'm not quite sure who won that yet, but that happened this afternoon. But the silent auction is still open for bidding, and that closes on Wednesday at 12 p.m. There's lots of fantastic art and items personally donated by friends of Bob and fans and students alike. There's, if any of your kids are in any of the Van Reed organization things, there's all sorts of, you can get kind of a discount. Oh, don't say too much. There's all sorts of sports programs for the youth programs within Wilson. So, go check it out, donate, and go on for the auction. There's also a signed NHL Flyers jersey. There's a Chad Henne signed NFL football. There's a bunch of quilts, paintings, some pottery, really, really cool stuff. So hop on and take a look and help out a good cause. And lastly, I just want to thank everyone who came out to celebrate, and everyone who dedicated all their time to put it all together. Molly Mack, Marisa Hunsiger, Darcy Willemeyer, and Jen Krikona, and many, many, many others. I'm sure I'm missing a whole bunch of people. And thanks also to all the sponsors and the folks donating everything that helped make the event such a great night. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Technology Committee, Mr. McCray.
No report.
Student Outreach, Ms. Danny Radash.
Good evening. Minithon's Gold Out Game was a huge success, raising more than $4,000 for pediatric cancer. On Friday, October 7th, Student Government is hosting the Pink Out Game. All proceeds will go to the Breast Cancer Support Services of Berks County. And T-shirts are now available for purchase online until Thursday, September 29th. So wear your pink and support this local charity. The Wilson Theater Company presents a comedic play titled A Curious Savage, September 29th, 30th, and October 1st at 7 p.m. On Thursday, the 15th, more than 100 12th grade students arrived at Gursky Stadium at 6 a.m. for the senior sunrise. The school provided hot chocolate, donuts, and bubbles for the senior class while they bonded and watched the beautiful sunrise together. And there will be a senior sunset at the end of the year, which I'm so excited for. Thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. I thought the conversation about the book Wonder was going to make me tear up. That's really sweet. Mr. Moravich, do you have any solicitor update? Okay, we do have public participation on non-agenda items. So do we want to go back through the?
Sure.
Okay.
I'll try to abbreviate a little bit. Individuals attending this meeting are expected to conduct themselves in a responsible, respectful manner that does not disrupt the meeting. Public comment is not question and answer, but instead an opportunity to offer comment on matters that may come before the board, that are or may come before the board. The board respectfully request that you direct your comments to the board as a body, because it is the entire board that will need to vote on future matters. Clapping, calling out, or cheering out is not permitted. Individuals should not approach the board tables. Individuals should speak from the speaker's lectern. Comments are 3 minutes, and I'll provide the 1-minute warning. Any person making threats of violence may be removed from the meeting or may be cited by local police.
Thank you, Mr. Maravich. First, we have Marlene Ferris, Wilson Opportunities and Programs.
Good evening. So happy that we're doing a lot of celebrating with what Wilson has been doing, our great community, and I'm going to do a little bit of the same with my comments today. So Wilson was a destination school for our family. We intentionally moved into this district because of the wonderful reputation, the academic experiences and opportunities. I'm a parent of 2 Wilson students. My son just began 6th grade this year, and my daughter just began 9th grade. So yeah, 2 significant transitions in our house. Although we may have had some feelings of anxiety and apprehension, maybe a little fear, right? But we were mostly excited about these chapters and their educational journey. I'm going to quote the mission for a moment here. Our mission is to engage students in an inquiry-based curriculum that fosters the problem-solving and communication skills needed to actively participate as both citizens of a democratic society and a dynamic global community. So Meet the Teacher was 2 weeks ago at the high school. Although I was not particularly excited to run back and forth from the lower house to the upper house to find these classes, oh my goodness, did not have the right shoes on. It was delightful to meet my daughter's wonderful teachers. Most importantly was to see what she was being exposed to, what she would be learning. Wilson School District is a certified project Lead the Way school, and what it is, it's a national program designed to encourage and prepare students for the fields of engineering and technology. So my daughter, who's an average student, is taking an honors engineering course, which utilizes state-of-the-art technology, software to provide an unmatched experience to our students. I saw this equipment, and it's absolutely incredible. So shout out to Mr. Dennis, who's the department chairperson for the technology engineering department. She's super ecstatic. She's making an electric guitar this year. So what a phenomenal opportunity and experience for a 9th grader. Many of the other opportunities at the high school, I just want to mention a few. You guys already know, but you know, the college in lieu of senior year, the dual enrollment, which we are certainly going to take advantage of, honors and AP, extracurricular activities, internships, BCTC, a lot of the things you guys already mentioned. Wilson Academy, JROTC, and then the open campus during the flex period, and there's so many more. I believe these opportunities hold closely to the mission and why this district is indeed a destination district. Meet the Teacher for West was on Thursday. The energy, compassion, care, quality teachers I was introduced to was just very impressive. They're very passionate. They're very committed to student success. So happy that Camp Swatara is back, so my 6th grader gets to go. I agree with the board. It's life-changing and transformational. It certainly was that for my oldest. So I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful for the opportunities that Wilson offers my children, and I'm most appreciative to the teachers, the administrators, and all the staff. Shout out to Mrs. K. She's a great 8th grade science teacher. Shout out to Mrs. Hahn. Did she leave? Mrs. Hahn, great 6th grade math teacher. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next, Tony DiGirolamo, Programs with Grant Funding Running Out.
That was my original topic, and I'll still try to fit it in if I can fit in within the 3 minutes, but I wasn't aware that we had a contract negotiated and ready to be voted on tonight. I guess when Mr. Blatt brought it up, and then I saw it on the agenda, it must have missed my eye. It's really great that you don't have to wait till midnight, you know, the night before there's going to be a strike to have a teacher. I mean, any contract, almost all of them go that way, so that is a positive thing. But I looked at the contract while you were voting on it, and I tried to figure out, well, what was the annual percentage increase? You know, what was handed out in the agreement? And I'm hoping that there would be some kind of summary of that, rather than just throwing up the contract, you know, and try to figure out, you know. So I'd like to understand a little bit about that, just for understanding inflation in general, what's going on in our area and in the country. My original topic was programs where grant money's running out. We had about $10 million of COVID grants, and some of that money was used for teacher salaries, counselors, things like that, to hire people. And when the grant money runs out, which it's running out this year for some of those programs, we have to be very cautious that we think about that program as well as any other programs, in light of everything else, what needs to continue, because that builds permanent, slowly increasing cost increases into the structure. We already have, an outlook that says we're going to run $4 million over our revenues every year for the next 4 years, plus we're going to increase taxes to the maximum of Act 7 that's allowed each year. So if you start allowing unfunded programs to continue, it's just going to skyrocket up. The other thing was the free preschool I saw out there, which is another one of those programs that's got 1-year funding. And I had heard rumors that we might go to 3 classes, 3 different locations next year. I don't know if that's true and what the plan is for it. But when you think about the plan and adding that kind of cost to it, I don't know how many years you're going out. We don't know any of those things yet. But be very cautious, again, with that program, because there's no funding for it. And if you expand the reach of the school district like that, there's going to be cost increases to go with it. So I ask that the district be very cautious with inflation, with a potential recession, to get us out of inflation coming up. Study those costs that are associated with that program before you make commitments as to what you're going to do with it. Look at it over a couple of different years, how many different locations, where I'm going to put it, where I'm going to expand it. And then also look at the programs that are running out that we funded with COVID money that now are going to the money's not going to be there this year, because otherwise we're going to have a really negative inflation surprise, and I'd hate to see that happen. So that was it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for your comments. Jeff Janagavo, Policy 903.
So I amended my comments, had them all prepared in light of how we're communicating Policy 903. So Mr. McCray, Mr. Martin, Mr. Hart, Ms. Caspar, Board President Cocker, Mr. Case, Mr. Schneider, Dr. Kennedy, and Mr. Negrini. For the community who might be wondering, what I've just done is not illegal. I may address a board member by name. There's zero definition in our 903 policy. I'm glad our attorney finds my comments comical. But there's nothing in our policy that says what I just did may not happen. It's kind of funny to say that we have to address the board as a group because they vote as a group. I've emailed this board 6 weeks ago my thoughts on this Policy 903 and how it's been represented really since it was revised, I believe, back in January. And it was revised because our proposed policy and current policy fell afoul of federal law that was recently changed back in, I believe it was January, February this year. And it sat with me for a while, and it was 6 weeks ago that I emailed, and nobody replied. I'm sorry, one board member replied. And then last meeting, I emailed again, and now tonight, I see that Attorney Moravich is asking that we respectfully address the board, and that's fine. My original email was, I'm not asking for vitriol, I'm not asking for personal attacks. I'm just asking for the opportunity that when context applies, there is no reason that anybody in this community, anybody that would come to these meetings, should feel compelled to not prepare their comments appropriately to a board member, if need be, of course, respecting decorum, all that good stuff. So that's what I wanted to say tonight. I kind of had enough of it. It was more than just 6 weeks ago. It's really been since that policy was revised. So really, we're talking almost 8-9 months. I just think it's real important that what this body does in the face of real, 903 is not a lengthy policy. It is not written in legalese. It's very clear, and it simply says community members are encouraged to address the board as a body. Well, tonight I was not encouraged. So I think it's important that we, as a board, lead our school district with transparency, and when it's brought to your attention, I understand you got a lot to think about, but when it was brought to your attention 6 weeks ago, and to let it go for 2 more meetings, it's just not a good look. So that's what I wanted to share tonight, and that's that. Have a good night.
Thank you for your comments. That's the end of our public participation. Do we have any new business from the board? Mr. Martin?
Yes, I have quite an agenda on my agenda here, but first of all, I do want to apologize to all the folks that have emailed me. My email has been down. Unfortunately, I was not getting my emails for at least 2 months. I thought there, I know a couple of you folks called me and asked me why I wasn't responding, but there was a technical glitch in our system, so I was not receiving my emails, and I apologize, because I didn't even know about that conversation there. So I do apologize for that, and I normally do return emails that are sent directly to me. So once again, I was not aware that some of these things were being sent to me, although several folks did email me on my personal email account. So I just want to let that be known, that I wasn't neglecting people, and I kind of feel that probably should have picked up on this quicker, but I thought it was summertime, I wasn't getting much emails, and obviously I was wrong. So anyway, I wanted to clear that up. Somebody mentioned about one of the teachers being honored was Ken Kershaw, and I don't want to date the gentleman, but my oldest son, but my oldest son still remembers him and speaks highly of him, so I think that honor is justified, and I just wanted to throw that out because my son does remember quite well. I do have, I want to give you some updates, and I talked about last week that I have some more information on the Gallup poll that was prepared back in August, and I mentioned about 26 of the parents that have children let's try this again, 26% of parents with children will not send their children to public schools. Only 42% of the poll responders felt that public education was satisfactory, not even great. 2 million students left public schools last year, and there's reasons for that, and they apply to this school district. Some of them more so than others, but the reasons for their feelings on public education was 15% felt it was poor, outdated curriculums, 12% poor form against competing countries. I do have more information on that. We ranked 25th overall in the world, and there's no signs of that improving at this point in time. We're 34th in math, and we're 16th in science, and these are standard tests that are given throughout the world. And China scored 17% higher than the United States, but spends 22% less than per pupil than the United States. Japan, with class sizes of 35, they're ranked 5th in the world. They spend 36.2% less than the United States. So there's a lot of information that's out there. We need to do a better job. And I say we, I'm talking about not just microeconomics being at Wilson. I'm talking about macroeconomics across the United States. 11% felt that students aren't prepared for the outside world. 9% said that they believe that schools don't have sufficient funding in the classrooms through materials, supplies to the pupils. And I believe I really believe this, else I wouldn't be talking about this. I don't think it's the problem with our teachers teaching. It's the quality's there. It's the problem with the Department of Education. They have quite a few people that sit around there, and they have more letters behind their names than I have letters in my name. They have very limited practical experience, and they shun criticism, especially from the business world. They're focused. They are so narrowly focused, which I think hinders the ability for schools across Pennsylvania as well as the United States to do the appropriate methods to improve education in their systems. I'm impressed with what the city of Philadelphia is doing. You probably know about it, but they're throwing out the old ways of doing everything that they've done for the last 50 years, and they've met with business leaders, and they think they're on the right track now to develop plans in conjunction with the business world to focus on the needs of the students when they graduate. Will they have jobs? What's going to be out there in the future? So they're just starting this year. It's a new plan, and I think they're on the right track. They're looking at the whole curriculum and looking at what's the benefit of taking Algebra 2 if you never use it. I agree with that. So they're looking at ditching the old 20th century and moving into the 21st century. And they're not, you know, if you look at their educational system, they deal with a lot of underprivileged people, but they're starting to understand that just getting education for the sake of education doesn't make it in today's world. And throwing money at an issue doesn't fix it. We've known that for so many past experiences over the last 20 years. We have actually an inverse relationship in the United States. The more we spend, the further we fall behind in the education when we're competing against the world. I'll just leave you this one fact. There's 3,142 counties and parishes in the United States. We in Berks County are 141st in the amount of spending per pupil in Berks County. So with taxes, and these are compared to taxes, property taxes. So we're doing a lot. And if you look at it, mostly actually, if you look at the statistics here, the 3,142 counties, it says a lot about how much we spend on property taxes and education. So I have more to talk about next time, but I know folks want to see the football game, so I'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Dr. Kennedy?
I can't miss this opportunity. So one part of the Gallup poll that you didn't mention was that the stark difference, and I alluded to this last week, between when people in the U.S. are asked, like you said, about the whole United States education versus what they think about their local school. Overwhelmingly, parents with children in school support and think their local schools are doing well. 80% are somewhat satisfied or satisfied when they look at their local school. When they look at overall education, it's only, math here, 42%, so almost half. And I think that speaks a lot to the systematic push by individuals and organizations to end public schools and to privatize public schools that started 10, 15, 20 years ago with the over-testing and just the attitudes towards public schools in the United States in general. One thing that really makes me uneasy is comparing other countries to the United States. I think we have a lot to learn from other countries. I truly do. But when you talk about Japan, it's a totally different culture. Their teachers are like heroes. Their schools are like houses. Like, they are at school many, many more hours in a day than our students in the United States. They don't do sports at school. South Korea and Japan have two of the highest suicide rates for students. They also don't educate, in several countries, don't educate past ninth grade. In ninth grade, you either go on to a career or you go on to more education. My favorite and just to mention, the other apples to oranges is they're very homogeneous. They have very similar cultures. They have very similar, there's not as many haves and have-nots. They have universal health care. They don't have the language issues that we have here. We let you know that many different languages are spoken. I look at Finland, and I think we have a lot to learn from Finland. What happened is a bunch of years ago, there was a big study from the PISA test. And the PISA test is the one test that is used to compare all the countries. So students in the United States take it, students in Finland take it. So that's when they are comparing countries, they're comparing the PISA test. Finland, South Korea, and the United States found themselves not doing good. And they all took very different paths to try and get better. The United States went we're going to make educational accountable, and we're going to test our kids to death. And that's how No Child Left Behind came down. Finland went the exact opposite way. Finland said, what can we do for early childhood education? Well, Finland has free language play-based childcare to the students are 7. And even wealthy Finnish families send their kids to free public childcare, even if they don't need childcare because it's that high quality. The United States went pushing everything down to the littles. Well, if they can't read by 3rd grade, they're not going to be able to read, so we need to start teaching kindergartners how to read. Finland went the exact opposite. Students do not start formal education in Finland until their 7th birthday. The United States said, we need to hold teachers accountable by their test scores. Finland said, we need to teach our teachers better. Just to get to education in Finland is the most, more than a doctor or a lawyer, most competitive career choice to get to college in Finland. You must have a master's degree, basic master's degree, just to teach in a Finnish classroom. Their field experiences are a year long when you're a teacher. Their professional development is lifelong. And their teachers are held on a pedestal higher than our rappers and our, sports stars. Like Finland, you're a teacher, you're up there. And culturally, it was a completely different shift where we looked at test scores and blamed teachers. Finnish people put their teachers on a pedestal and said, what can we do to help you? But again, in Finland, they have socialized medicine. They don't have the poverty we have. They don't have the language differences. They don't have the cultural differences. They're also tiny. They're like the size of one of our states. So when you look at the PISA data, if you look at a wealthy suburban United States school, their data is at the top of the charts. When you look at an underfunded rural poor or urban school, their data is at the bottom of the charts. We have such a disparity among our United States and our funding and the way we do things that it's just absolutely 100% not a fair comparison. But that doesn't mean I don't believe we have things to learn from each of these countries that have improved their educational system.
I just want to, counterpoint. And I understand what you're saying, Amy, but the problem is people with education keep saying it's this and this and this and that. It's not us, it's everybody else in the world. I don't know if you read about, Poland is often compared to the United States when it comes to education. They rank number 9 in the world, spend less than we do. So does Ireland, which, Ireland's a small country, but they rank higher than we do. But you kind of, Amy, brought out what I thought you would say. We need to, you got your education hat on, a lot of people here have their education hat. Stop making excuses. Let's look at the data. Let's make a step forward. We got to improve. I want my grandchildren, to live, well, let's put it this way. Right now, they're supposed to have a lesser economic advantage than most of the people sitting here. I don't want that. I want them to have the same or better economic advantage than I do. But if we stop thinking that everything's perfect, we will just continue to fall behind. And I understand the test scores. I would not want any child to go under the stress. You mentioned South Korea, I get that. That you never want that. But there's other countries, I think we got to stop. And I know 2 administrators feel over the last several years that our education at Wilson has decreased. So if that's that thought, we need to address it. And the next meeting, I got at least 15 reasons that are impacting our education. So
I don't see it as excuses. You heard excuses. I heard solutions. There are solutions there. You and many, and I agree with you about PDE, people who are in PDE have very little actual experience in the classroom and in education. You don't like our solutions that we give you. They're expensive. They take a long time to implement. But when I talk about Finland and for every 45 minutes they give educationally, they give 15 minutes of outdoor time. That's not a solution for whatever reason that we like here. So where you see excuses, I see, here's what they're doing. You meaning people in charge, teachers don't like these solutions. They're too expensive, they take too much, they're not what we do. So I want to change things, just not the way that some people want to change them.
Well, and if I could point out the difference, one, Mr. Martin, you're talking about macro versus micro, and I think, Dr. Kennedy, so are you. I think if we are wanting to fix what we have kind of control over in our orb, we have something that each board member is assigned a school. We have a adopt a board member program. And I think Mr. Hart has challenged everyone to this, that we each make contact with our school that we're assigned to and see if we can spend a day in the school and really be immersed in what goes on in our schools so that we can see what our actual education and our actual environment is that our students are in every day and our teachers are in, and then see what we think we could change here, as opposed to talking, not that that's anything wrong with that, talking about a bigger picture, but if we're going to make real change in the lives of our community, I think we start in our classrooms. So
And you're more than welcome to come visit me up at Kutztown and see all we do for our pre-service teachers and all the training that they have to go through just to be a teacher.
I'm not questioning, I guess you're thinking I'm questioning the teacher's capability. That has nothing to do with it. I'm talking about the directions that are coming down from different organizations that don't quite have touch with reality. Now, I think the teachers do a great job with what they have to deal with. I mean, I'm not questioning that. Not at all. All right.
If you guys get together for a day and do this, can you get like cameras and stuff and people to follow you? There's a TV show there.
Is there any further discussion or business from the board? Ms. Casper?
Thank you, President Cocker. I don't know if I'll make it before kickoff, but I think I can make it quick. I wanted to end on a positive note. This past Thursday marked the start of the national observance of Hispanic Heritage Month. This year's theme is Unidos, Inclusivity for a Stronger Nation. I know that many of our teachers integrate cultural themes in their teaching and in their classrooms, and this is a wonderful opportunity this month to continue to support a more inclusive experience for all of our Wilson students. The Latino population is the fastest growing population in Berks County, and that is also reflected here at Wilson, as it is also the fastest growing population at Wilson. After English, Spanish is the most spoken language in the world, and the United States is actually the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world after Mexico. This is also reflected among our Wilson family, since after English, Spanish is the language most indicated as spoken among our Wilson families. Our common language should be seen as an asset to any community, and it should never be seen as a deficit to a community. But Latino contributions go way beyond language, music, culture, and the arts. We contribute to our society in many ways, including providing human and social capital to the areas in which we settle. And we are also a political force to be reckoned with, and we are quick to mobilize due to that common language. I hope that you can join me this month and beyond in celebrating all people and things Latino. Orgullosa de ser Latina, pa'lante que se puede.
Gracias.
I just wanted to say one last thing. All joking aside, and I do make a couple of jokes every now and then, but I do respect Mr. Martin and Dr. Candy and all the different ideals and perspectives on the board. I really do appreciate that, and it does take 9, and if we were all the same, it would be quite boring, and it wouldn't be good for our district. So just thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Case. Any other business? I do have one extra piece of information. It kind of, in response to Mr. DiGirolamo's concerns, there will be a summary of the contract with the WEA posted online tomorrow for the community to kind of have the rundown and the details. So thank you for sharing your concerns.
President
Yes,
Thacker,
Dr.
could I
Shanahan.
also address the community, please? So my comments tonight are in reference to the unacceptable banner that was displayed at the Reading versus Wilson football game on Friday night. It's been brought to our attention as a board as well as the administrative team that the banner that was displayed, like I said, was not acceptable and quite frankly a poor reflection on our community and our school district. I just want the entire community to know that immediately upon finding out that the banner was shown, we took steps to ensure that does not happen again, and we did our best the next day to offer an apology, a sincere apology to the athletic director as well as the superintendent of schools within the Reading School District. So just again, on behalf of the school district and our community, please accept our apology and our commitment that when we see something that isn't right, that we're going to do everything in our power to ensure that it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Dr. Trickett. If there's no further business, looking for a motion to adjourn?
Schneider.
Mr. Schneider, thank you. Meeting is adjourned.